let's dab our toes a little bit into the world of Detroit Red Wings trade rumors. Not really rumors, but more opinions and ideas here. So, what I'm talking about in this video here is Ansar Khan. Now, if you don't know who Ansar Khan is, he is a Detroit Red Wings beat report writer for MLive.com. M is Michigan, it's Michigan Live, pretty much. It's a website. They have Detroit-related things. Now, Ansar Khan is a beat reporter, which means that he goes around, does the interviews, and publishes articles and writes about the team that he covers. He's got 22,000 Twitter followers, and on MLive.com recently, he uploaded a Q&A section where he took in questions from the fans and responded to them accordingly. The Q&A article here is called "Should the Red Wings Move On?" from Jeff Blashill and Andreas Athanasiou. Now, we're not going to talk about Blashill here today. I think you know my fair share of opinions regarding Jeff Blashill. You just got to take a look at Robbie Fabry, who I've been really good about. But then you got to take a look at Philip Zadina, who I've been really, like, what the heck's going on, man, about. But we're talking about Athanasiou here today, and whether or not the Red Wings should, could, or maybe even would trade Athanasiou. Now, this is where it actually comes up in the article here. The question is asked by a guy named C. Josephs, and he says Athanasiou is leading the league on the wrong side of the plus-minus stats. Will a change of scenery benefit him and the Wings if they get current or future help for him? Let's take a look at the little response here from Ansar Khan. I think so. Athanasiou has been on the rumor mill before, notably during difficult contract negotiations that cost him the start of the 2017-18 season. But the Red Wings were right to keep him and were rewarded with a 30-goal season the next year. But while this season has been a struggle for virtually everyone on the roster, it has been particularly difficult for Athanasiou, who has 5 goals and 15 points in 28 games, along with an NHL worst -31 rating. Yeah, Athanasiou hasn't been great this year. And in fact, it's so weird taking a look at the idea of trading Athanasiou, because it feels like he's just been with the Red Wings forever. The guy was drafted all the way back in 2012 in the 4th round. He's 25 now. And this is a season where Athanasiou is indeed at 15 points in 29 games. That's a 41-40 point pace if you do the math right there. But he is at a -33. He is not really doing as well as he did last year, where he did get 30 goals. So the idea of trading Athanasiou definitely isn't new, especially with the mentioned contract negotiations a few years ago, wherein he was in the trade block a little bit more than he is now. But the idea that Khan brings up in this article, which he does explain his answer a little bit more, but I just don't want to read the entire thing. That's just kind of whack for a video idea, right? He talks about how Athanasiou is a player who he believes could probably get his scoring touch back with another team. And for the most part, that's not an unfair idea to present. We do know Athanasiou does excel with his speed, and the scoring ability has been there. But playing on this Red Wings team today hasn't really been all too great. He's been playing mostly with Filppula and Glendening this year, and that line hasn't really been amazing. I mean, it's okay. Athanasiou averages about 16:30 time on ice per game and about 2 minutes time on ice per game on the power play. So he is getting a little bit of an opportunity here, but his power play production, he's only got a goal and 2 assists on the power play this year. So it hasn't really been there for Athanasiou, and in a year where it is a contract year, his 2-year minor, small little extension from a few years ago, it ends at the end of this year. When you have a player in a position like that, the idea of trading him comes to mind. Which is why we're asking, is it plausible that Athanasiou is traded at the trade deadline? Khan does believe that Athanasiou can get his scoring touch back with another team, and that trading him for futures would be a pretty plausible move. Athanasiou is 25, as we mentioned, which means that by the time the Red Wings have all their younger guys already marinated, developed, and competing on this Red Wings team, Athanasiou may be 29, 30, 31. And when you take a look at it like that, if the long-term plan has the Red Wings succeeding in about 5 or 6 years from now rather than now, it would be an interesting idea, and it would be a very valid idea to think about trading Athanasiou for younger guys, draft picks, etc. But, as mentioned in the article, Athanasiou's trade value is really low right now. If you wanted to wait for a trade, doing it at the trade deadline would probably be the best move, because you would allow the team to actually, go through their growing pains. Athanasiou may become a little bit better, maybe not, whatever, but teams do get desperate for players at the trade deadline. And if Athanasiou is at about, 10, 12 goals by then, and whatever, then he could be an interesting addition to a playoff team. A fast guy who has a scoring touch that has been established, and who honestly could need a pretty big change of scenery. He's entering that age where he is supposed to be in his prime. And if his best year was the most previous year completed, it doesn't really look too great for a player. Now, does that mean that I am completely dismissing the idea that Athanasiou could just become better for the Red Wings in general, get his scoring touch back, and all of a sudden establish himself as one of the leaders and mainstay players on this Red Wings team? No, it doesn't mean I'm dismissing that. It's just saying that I honestly think that's unlikely to happen because of the things that have been happening in the past few weeks. The Red Wings haven't been great. Players haven't been great, but Athanasiou is kind of the one who's at the core of that. So when you take a look at it objectively, Athanasiou is probably one of the guys who is more susceptible to being traded. It's a contract year. The guy's a little bit older, and the guy had some pretty interesting value last year that would be difficult to salvage back, but I don't think it's impossible. But if you are able to salvage an Athanasiou trade, what exactly does the return look like? Well, what you're getting is a player who is an NHL player. I don't think anybody is disputing that. Athanasiou is an NHL player. But to what extent and how great that is, we don't necessarily know the consistency there. So Athanasiou going to another team and signing an extension foreseeably, it does look like a picture that could fetch at least maybe a second, maybe even a third and a fourth, maybe even a B, C+ level prospect. And if you take a look at it like that, hey, it looks pretty interesting. An NHL player getting traded for assets in the future. Assets of hope, pretty much. Because if you're taking a look at the team in the long term, when Zadina is in his prime, when Moritz Seider is in his prime, when you get these other guys like Mastro Simoni and Tuomisto and all that making the team, you want your players to be great all alongside of each other. And if Athanasiou is 30 by that time, then it's not necessarily lining up in the same timeline. If you traded Athanasiou today, or not today, but at the trade deadline, you get yourself another future piece back. That future piece could arguably be more helpful for your Red Wings competing team down the line than Athanasiou would because of the age discrepancy. So it's something to think about. Obviously, we're not going to say that anything is guaranteed. This is just one beat reporter's opinion, writing it in a news article outlet, and we're talking about it here today because I think it's a pretty interesting idea. Trading Athanasiou. Do you do it? Do you not do it? And if you do it, when? Because that also is probably the more interesting part of this discussion here, is the timeline. Do you wait until the trade deadline? Do you wait until after you sign him to a contract and then you trade him? Or do you not even sign him to a contract, just trade his rights away for like a 6th or a 7th? Is anything better than Athanasiou at this point in regards to a trade value standpoint to your team? And furthermore, what's with the idea of keeping him? Is that something that you would be open to? Because that obviously is an option that presents itself as well. So all that stuff, you can comment down below because I really want to hear about it. Hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.